What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to J.Craft's Garage. Well, we're back at it again. I've got a few more things that I'm doing to the 95 F350 with the 7.3 power stroke in it. Yeah, it was getting kind of hard to turn at idle. You know, you'd be sitting still at a stoplight or even trying to make a turn or hitting the brakes, and the power steering pump wasn't working like it should. It was kind of hard to turn. I had to use my Hulk muscles to, you know, turn a 8,000 pound truck around a corner. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to show you what it took to replace the power steering pump on this truck and get her working. So I've got a little issue with this truck. Whenever this truck is idling, you're sitting still, or whenever you're trying to make a turn and you get your foot off the accelerator, it is hard to turn. Now it will turn whenever you get the RPMs up off of idle, and it will do just fine. So what I'm going to do, we're going to wind up replacing the power steering pump on this thing and make it better. So I've already begun to start taking things apart. First thing I wanted to do, I know a lot of people, what they do to get the puller down here, there's not very much space in between the pulley and the fan shroud, and a lot of people put a hole in the fan shroud in order to put the puller in there to get that pulley off. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to take that shroud off. I'm going to take this upper radiator hose off. I'm going to take the fan out. I've already begun to work on getting the fan clutch out. As you can see down in there, it's got a big old nut on it. I don't have the proper wrench to go on it, so all I did was take a couple of 1/2-inch extensions, put it on there and hit it with my hammer, and then it took a little bit of work, but I was able to loosen it up and get it to where it'll spin off of the water pump. Now I'm able to do that because the water pump had been replaced a few months ago in this thing by the previous owner. So that's what we're working on. We're going to get this fan shroud out. We're going to get this upper radiator hose out and get some more space in there. I'm going to take the belt off, and we're going to put, well, I got it apart. I'm going to put another tensioner on it. I might go get a belt for it too. I just have to look at the belt and see how bad it is, and then we're gonna go from there. Well, now that we got everything all apart, I can check out all the pulleys and everything, making sure that they're in good shape. Like I said, we're gonna replace the tensioner there. I'm just making sure all of the idler pulleys are good too. They sound good. Water pump's been replaced, but if you notice, it's got some rusty water in it, so we're gonna have to deal with that. Vacuum pump's working fine, AC compressor's working fine. It's just the power steering pump don't want to work too. So this may be a little bit longer video than anticipated, seeing that I got some rusty water or rusty coolant, whatever you want to call it, in the cooling system. So we're going to work on the power steering pump first and getting that out and seeing which power steering pump that it could be, because there was like 2 different pumps that it could be. One, they said metric threads or standard threads on it. So we're just going to take it apart and find out which one. I got both pumps, and then we're going to find out which one it is, put that on, and then deal with the nasty coolant that is in this truck, in this cooling system. See if we can get that flushed out as best as possible, put some new coolant in it, and keep on driving. And then probably replace the coolant reservoir too while I'm at it, because it's all nasty looking as well. And we'll go from there. So the first thing you're going to need to do before you take the power steering pump off is try to get the pulley off. Now you will need this little tool. It goes around the front part of the pulley, and then it's got the part in the middle that you screw in and pushes up against the shaft to pull it off. Pretty much without this tool, it's a pain in the butt to get that pulley off because it's pressed on. And then there's another tool I'll show you here in a minute after we get it all together that you use to install the pulley. So it's like you pull it off and then you press it back on. And from there, you just take the pump out and disconnect everything, and it goes from there. So we got down to the power steering pump and got the pulley off. And also I took out the air box too to make it easier to get to the pressure line as well as the return line down there as well. So we're going to get it out and we're going to find out which power steering pump it is that goes back in this thing. They're both the same price from O'Reilly's, not sponsored. And try to figure out the difference between these two, if there is any difference between the two power steering pumps that they got me. So it's not too bad of a job to do this thing. You just gotta know what you're doing. Some people make it more complicated than you know, whatever. Especially having the shroud and the fan in the way and all that. But since I was able to get the fan off, I was like, oh, I'm making this easier for me, even though it takes a little bit longer. So whatever makes it easier for you to get stuff apart, that's, you know, how I recommend it, as long as you know how to put it all back together. And if you don't know how to put it back together, that's when you call me and, well, we'll put it back together. Anyways, let me get the fluid out of this thing and take it apart and get this pump out. Now that I figured out which power steering pump goes on this truck, I'm putting her all back together, and it's pretty straightforward. Just make sure that the high pressure line goes in straight and not crooked, and you're messing up threads and things of that nature. So we're putting that back on and going to get it all bolted back up, and then we're going to install the pulley and everything, and then we'll move on to what's going on with the cooling system and everything here, and get this truck back up and running like it should be. So in order to install the pulley on the power steering pump, this tool here has to be used in order to put it back on. Yeah, you might be able to use a hammer, but then there's a risk of messing everything up and causing the pulley not to be straight on the shaft and things of that nature. So all you gotta do is just screw this part here into the center portion of the power steering pump, like that. Just make sure the center part's backed off on the pusher. That's what they call this thing, is a pusher. And just screw it in as far as it'll go, like that, and then screw the center portion in, and then you gotta just hang on to it. Hang on to the end part. Hang on to the end part back here with a socket, and then you take a wrench and you turn it in until it bottoms out, pretty much, or until the edge of the pulley right here is flat with the edge of the shaft on the pump. That's pretty much how it goes back together, and I'll show you here in just a second what it should look like. So when it's all said and done, that's what it should look like. The edge of the shaft should be right there flush with the edge of the pulley on the power steering pump. And now we're going to put the belt on and put some stuff together. I'm going to move this truck, that way whenever I drain the coolant, I'm not going to get it all over my driveway. I'm going to move it over to the grass over there and drain the coolant out of this thing and flush it out and try to get it as clean as possible. And then we're going to put another thermostat in. I'm going to go ahead and put another thermostat in it, replace the coolant bottle. I've already got a temperature sensor for it as well. We're going to replace that and hopefully get this thing all cleaned up and ready to go here in the next few hours. Well, now that we're on to the cooling system in this truck, now that I found out it was a little rusty, I wound up taking the thermostat out. Thermostat sits right there in that tube on top of the water pump there and everything. I got the hoses back on. I already drained the coolant. I got coolant in this bucket and I got coolant in that bucket. It's about almost 4 gallons of coolant that I got out of this thing. So it takes quite a bit of coolant. And hooked everything back up, and then what I'm going to do is fill it up with water and let it run for a little bit and flush everything out. Try to flush it out as much as possible before I replace the reservoir there. And then once it's all nice and flushed out, we get all the water, you know, most of the water out of it and all cleaned up. Then I'm going to put coolant back in it and put her all back together and see how she runs. And I'm going to replace the thermostat with it, and I'm going to replace the belt. I'm definitely replacing the tensioner because I have one already. Just, you know, preventative maintenance stuff, because I'm always using this truck and it sees, you know, 3,000 or 4,000 miles a month, not a year, a month. So that's how extensive this truck is, and I want to keep it running as long as possible, keep up with the maintenance and whatever's wrong with it. So fill up with a little bit of water and then run it for a little bit and drain it out. So for the last half an hour or so, I've been filling it up and draining and filling it up and draining, filling it up and draining until everything is all pretty much clear. And you might be able to see down there, but all the water is pretty much coming out clear out of the engine and everything. So we're gonna let it drain. I'm gonna go pick up some more parts. I'm gonna replace the coolant recovery tank and with some new cap and everything, and get a new thermostat and replace the temperature sensor, new belt, and replace the tensioner and all that. Put it all back together and see how this thing is gonna run with everything that we've done to it so far. And we'll get back to you here. And we were taking stuff apart. I'm taking the belts off and taking that thermostat housing off. And I wound up getting new parts here. I already had the tensioner in a box, laying in a box. This is the old belt. And then I got a new belt for it. New thermostat to replace the old thermostat. Got a new coolant reservoir. And then my whole case of coolant, which is probably going to be used. This coolant reservoir is Dorman 603-046 for this truck. It wasn't too bad, you know, about $100 for it, but definitely needed because I want to see how much coolant is in this reservoir, because this one here is about 30 years old and it's dark and, well, you know, I can't see nothing out of it. So we're going to put that on. We're going to put the tensioner on, thermostat, belt, and everything all back together, fill her up with coolant, and see how we're gonna run here in just a moment. Moving along a little further, got the thermostat in place. The O-ring goes on top of it, and got the temperature sensor in there. Also replaced the belt tensioner. I'm gonna put a new belt on and bolt everything back up, and then we're gonna put in the new coolant reservoir and replace that one. So here we go. Well, there you go, folks. We've got the belt on and routed properly, and all stuff to do is everything else that needs to be put on: the fan shroud, and then fill her up with coolant after we get everything hooked back up. I even hooked up the bottom radiator hose back up to the radiator too. And then we're gonna fill it up with coolant and just leave it sit for a little bit and get all the bubbles out. And then fire it up here. So we put about 5 gallons of coolant in the system. Been running it for a little bit, revving it up, trying to get all the bubbles out of the system, getting it warmed up to normal operating temperature, and see if the thermostat will open up. Then later on, I'm gonna leave her sit for a little bit. And then later on, we're going to take it out for a drive and see what all takes place here. Well, we are out here driving the Power Stroke, cruising about 70 miles an hour with it. And guess what? Temperature gauge actually comes alive. Yep, we're in the normal range. So I'm going to put about, 10 miles or so on it, drive it around, make sure nothing's leaking. Then we should be set to go. Also changed the oil filter on it too and topped it off, so we should be good to go. We got the oil filter changed, we got our steering pump changed, coolant all changed, topped off the windshield washer reservoir, and got a few more things I want to do to the truck here in the future, and we'll make videos about that as well. So yeah, this one here turned out okay, and now we're back to making money with it tomorrow. Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That's how everything went here with the 95 Power Stroke. Yeah, things went a little bit more than what I expected, but that was some things that I wanted to do. I wanted to replace the coolant bottle in it and put a thermostat in it and the temperature sensor. But little did I know that it was rusty well water in the cooling system. But anyways, we got her all fixed up and got her working, running good down the road and working like it should. I appreciate everybody watching. If you haven't already done so, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. I hope that everybody is well, and I hope everybody is safe. And I look forward to seeing y'all right here on the next video.